Hello friends, in today's video, let us learn about solar energy, solar radiation and solar constant. So we know sun is the source of energy on earth. All the living beings that we see around on earth consumes their energy from sun. For example, plants absorb the solar energy during the process of photosynthesis. And animals consume energy by consuming plants and other animals. So as we see, the energy that is existing in the living beings ultimately comes from the sun. So even if you look at other forms of energy, for example wind energy or hydro energy, all these energies are ultimately coming from the sun, because wind flows because there is variation of temperature, and the variations in temperature are created by sun and its radiation. Similarly, water is taken to higher places, higher altitudes when rain falls. And why does rain occur? Because water evaporates because of sun's radiation. So sun is the ultimate source of energy on earth. Many other energy forms that we see around are produced from solar energy. Even the fossil fuels are coming from sun, indirectly coming from sun, because these fossils, petrol, coal or any other fossil fuels, were formed many years ago due to radiations from sun. They are the remainings of the living creatures, right? Living animals and plants. So the radiations that come from the sun, if we study these radiations, the spectrum of solar radiation is very interesting. What is spectrum? So if you plot the wavelength of the incoming radiations along the x-axis and the spectral irradiance, that is the energy of the incoming radiation in that wavelength along the y-axis, the graph that we obtain is very similar to that of a black body, which is kept at approximately 5900 Kelvin. So you will learn about the black body radiation. The curve of solar radiation is very similar to that of a black body, that is placed at 5900 Kelvin. So as you can see, mainly the solar radiation consists of light in the visible range. Half of the solar radiation is composed of visible rays. Then there is infrared rays, that is in a very huge range. There is also some amount of UV radiation in the incoming solar radiation. But as the solar radiation passes through the atmosphere, some of the radiations get scattered and reflected, and the radiation that reaches the surface of the earth is different from what falls on the earth, falls on the atmosphere. So as you can see here, this yellow curve represents the solar spectrum, the solar radiation spectrum that falls on the top of the atmosphere, and then some components get cancelled due to scattering and reflection. At the sea level, the radiation that we get is indicated by this red curve. Now let us define solar constant. Solar constant is a measure of power obtained from sun. So it is the measure of the amount of incoming solar radiation per unit area incident on a plane perpendicular to the radiation at a distance of 1 astronomical unit. So what is its meaning? We know sun is emitting huge amount of radiation, and when the radiation reaches the top of Earth's atmosphere, which is 1 AU distance from sun, what is the power or intensity per unit area at the top of the atmosphere? So this is defined by solar constant. So it is a measure of the incoming solar radiation per unit area incident on a plane perpendicular to the radiation at a distance of 1 AU. It will measure the amount of radiation at the top of the Earth's atmosphere. So its value is approximately 1.366 watt per meter square. So it is measured per unit area. So if the radiations are measured at the surface of the earth, it will be still less because due to scattering and other losses, further this power will be lost within the atmosphere itself. For example, Rayleigh scattering or Mie scattering, etc. are some forms of scatterings, atmospheric scatterings that will lose some solar energy or solar radiation. Now, what is solar irradiance? It is the amount of solar power per unit area at the surface of the earth. So, solar constant is defined at the top of the atmosphere and solar irradiance is measured at the surface of the earth. And this solar irradiance shows very huge variations. For example, there are some annual variation for this irradiance. So, we know Earth is not traveling in a circular path. If Sun is here, Earth is following an elliptical path around the Sun. So, Earth can be at the perigee or at the apogee, and the solar radiance will vary annually depending on season. There is approximately a variation of 0.3% depending on the elliptical path that the Earth follows. Then the solar irradiance will depend on the location on Earth. So, as you know, along the equator, along the tropical region of the Earth, we get more radiation, and near to the polar region, radiations are lesser. So, location on Earth is an important factor determining solar irradiance. Then local time is important because during day we have more irradiance and during night we have less irradiance. So, at noon we have maximum irradiance. So, that means local time, the time at which the solar radiation is measured, is also important. Then another important factor is the angle of the Sun relative to the plane of the surface. We will see about this point in the coming slides. So, that is also important. So, you know, near the equator we get more irradiance, and when we move up to the polar region, the solar irradiance is less. So, there is a factor of angle in the determination of solar irradiance. Further, atmospheric conditions like clouds, fog, atmospheric pollution, etc. will also affect solar irradiance. So, there is a huge variation on solar irradiance depending on various factors. Now, if we study solar radiation, on the surface of the earth, there are two different sources for solar radiation. One is the direct sunlight that we get from the sun, and the second one is the diffuse rays. For example, the direct rays means the sunlight that is directly falling right from the sun. And sometimes the radiations can reach a surface by diffusion. For example, the sunlight can first reach a cloud, get scattered, and this scattered ray can reach a particular plane. So, direct sunlight and diffuse rays are both factors in irradiance that a surface will obtain. Now, learning more about the direct sunlight, let us learn how this direct sunlight or the solar irradiance due to the direct sunlight depends on angle. So, as you can see here, these red lines represent the solar radiation and these are reaching the surface of the earth. So, as you can see, near the equator, this line represents the equator, and near to the equator, the plane, the considered planes or area are perpendicular to the sun's rays. So, these rays will be completely hitting on a minimum area, a small area. Whereas, when we near the polar region, the Earth's surface is somewhat slanted when compared to the incoming radiation. So, the same amount of radiation will be hitting a larger area because that area is slanted. So, this factor will determine this angle between the considered area, the considered plane, and the incoming solar radiation. That angle theta is a determining factor in counting solar irradiance. So, the dependence of the irradiance on the angle theta is given by S equal to S0 cos theta. where S0 is the direct irradiance for normal incidence. So if for a plane area, if sunlight is directly falling perpendicular to this area, then that is S0. And if theta is the angle between the considered area, then S0 cos theta will be the irradiance. So let us look at this picture to understand more. So here these are the incoming sunlight and this is directly falling onto an area A dash and also onto an area A. So as you can see, A dash is clearly lesser than A. What is the relation between A dash and A? If this angle is theta, this angle will be 90 minus theta and this angle here will be theta. So what will be cos theta? So clearly cos theta is equal to A dash by A, or A equal to A dash by cos theta. So we know cos theta is lesser than 1. So 1 by cos theta is greater than 1. So clearly the area A is greater than A dash by a factor of 1 by cos theta. So the same solar radiation, here the sunlight which is falling onto A dash and A are same. But the areas are different. A larger area A is getting the same radiation as A dash. So clearly the solar irradiance per unit area in the case of a slanted area like A will be lesser. So as we can see here, we said about an equation S equal to S0 cos theta, and area that is perpendicular to the sunlight incoming radiation will be getting maximum solar irradiance, which is S0. And if the plane which we consider is at an angle, then that plane will get lesser amount of irradiance, which is given by S equal to S0 cos theta. So this cos theta factor is due to the difference in area by a factor of 1 by cos theta. The slanted area has a increased area by a factor of 1 by cos theta. And finally, we know this solar energy is radiated as electromagnetic waves. So generally there are two ways for harvesting this energy. One is heat production from solar collectors. We will use various methods to trap heat energy from the solar radiation, especially since the solar radiations consist of infrared rays. There will be plenty of heat in it. So we can trap the heat energy from solar radiation. The second method that we have is electricity production. Since solar energy is electromagnetic, we can directly produce electricity from EM waves using photovoltaic cells. So these are the two general methods that we adopt to trap solar energy. So in the coming unit, we will be seeing more about utilization of solar energy using different equipment and how these energies can be made use for practical applications. So as of now, I hope the topic of solar energy is clear for you. Thank you.